The morning rush at Westside Coffee was in full swing. The line stretched nearly to the door, filled with busy professionals tapping at phones and students frantically reviewing notes for morning exams. The air smelled of fresh pastries and rich espresso, mixing with the gentle hum of conversation and the hiss of the milk steamer. Tom Daniels stood patiently in line, his mind juggling the day ahead. At 38, his face carried the kind lines that came from smiling often at his students and the tired shadows that came from raising 2 kids alone. He checked his watch and calculated how much time he had before needing to drop off his children at school. His daughter Lily had a science presentation today, and his son Noah had forgotten his lunch twice this week already. "I've got 20 minutes, he thought, running a hand through his dark hair that was starting to show bits of gray at the temples. Plenty of time. 2 people ahead of him in line stood a woman in a simple gray sweater and jeans, her brown hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Nothing about her stood out particularly, which was exactly how Claire Winters preferred it. As the owner of Horizon Technologies, her net worth had recently crossed the 11 billion mark, but she'd learned long ago that baseball caps and minimal makeup were her best disguise. Today was one of her normal people days, her small rebellion against board meetings and investor calls. The line inched forward. Tom scrolled through messages from other teachers about the upcoming field trip, while Claire reviewed acquisition documents on her phone, both lost in their separate worlds until a loud voice cut through the coffee shop chatter. "I said no foam." How hard is that to understand? Do you even speak English? Tom looked up to see a red-faced man in an expensive suit leaning over the counter, shouting at the young barista whose hands were visibly shaking as she tried to remake his drink. "I'm so sorry, sir. I'll fix it right away," she stammered, her voice barely audible. "This is the 3rd time. I come here every day and you people can't get a simple order right." The man's voice grew louder as other customers began to stare uncomfortably at the floor or their phones, pretending not to notice. Claire, who was next in line, stepped forward. "Excuse me, but—" The man whirled toward her, his anger finding a new target. "Stay out of this!" "I'm dealing with incompetence here." Tom didn't think. He just moved. In 3 steps, he was between Claire and the angry customer, his tall frame creating a natural barrier. The protective instinct that had served him well as both a father and a high school teacher kicked in automatically. "Hey there," Tom said, his voice firm but calm. "Let's take a breath, all right? Everyone's doing their best this morning." The man's face flushed darker. "Who do you think you are? Mind your own business." Tom didn't flinch. 15 years of breaking up hallway arguments had prepared him for much worse than an impatient businessman. "I'm just someone who thinks we could all use a little kindness before 9 a.m. The barista is remaking your drink. Why don't we step aside and let other folks order while we wait?" For a moment, tension hung in the air. Then the man glanced around, suddenly aware of the dozens of eyes watching him. His shoulders dropped slightly. "Whatever. Just tell them to hurry up," he muttered, stepping to the side. Tom nodded and turned to check on Claire, who was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "You okay?" he asked. She blinked, seemingly surprised by the simple question. "Yes, thank you." "No problem." Tom offered a quick smile before stepping back to his place in line, thinking nothing more of it. But Claire couldn't stop watching him. In her world, people acted with hidden motives. Assistants were efficient because they wanted promotions. Business partners were charming because they wanted deals. Men were helpful because they recognized her from magazine covers or wanted something from her. This stranger had stepped in with no idea who she was. No recognition had flickered in his eyes. No calculating assessment of what he might gain. He'd simply seen another human being potentially in trouble and acted. When Tom reached the counter to order, Claire lingered near the pickup area, pretending to check her emails. She noticed how he chatted easily with the still-shaken barista, making her laugh with some comment she couldn't hear. He tipped generously, dropping all his change into the jar without hesitation, despite the slightly worn look of his jacket and the careful way he'd counted out exact change for his coffee. "Medium black coffee for Tom," the barista called a few minutes later. Claire watched as he thanked them, then juggled his coffee and bag as he checked his phone. A small frown crossed his face. "Everything okay?" she found herself asking as he passed by the pickup counter. Tom looked up, surprised she was still there. "Oh yeah, just a text from my daughter." Apparently, her brother put his toy dinosaur in her backpack as a prank, and it's totally embarrassing her before her big presentation. He chuckled, shaking his head. Never a dull moment with kids. You have children? Claire asked, genuinely curious. She didn't spend much time around families anymore. 2 of them. Keeps life interesting. Tom glanced at his watch. And speaking of which, I should get going before the morning drop-off line becomes a nightmare. Have a good day and... He hesitated, then added, don't let the occasional angry customer ruin your morning. With that, he was gone, merging into the stream of people heading out the door and into the city morning. Claire stood still for a moment, her own coffee forgotten until the barista called her fake name. Drink for Anne. She'd used different names at coffee shops for years now. Another small way to move through the world unnoticed. As she stepped outside into the cool autumn air, her driver Roger was waiting by the car door already open. He'd parked discreetly down the block as instructed. Good morning, Ms. Winters, he said. Straight to the office? Claire paused, coffee in hand, watching as Tom walked down the street, stopping to help a woman pick up papers she'd dropped while struggling with a stroller. Even in a hurry, it seemed he couldn't help but notice when someone needed assistance. Ms. Winters? Roger repeated. Yes, the office, she said, sliding into the back seat of the luxury car. As the vehicle pulled away from the curb, she found herself wondering about the man's story. A single father, clearly. He'd mentioned no partner and there was no ring on his finger. A teacher, probably. Given the way he'd handled the angry customer with such practiced calm. Someone who noticed the world around him in a way most people didn't. Claire opened her laptop, telling herself to focus on the day ahead. She had meetings with investors, decisions about a new product line, and endless emails demanding attention. Yet her mind kept drifting back to the coffee shop and the simple kindness she'd witnessed. Roger, she said suddenly, could we take this same route tomorrow morning? I'd like to stop at that coffee shop again. Of course, Ms. Winters. Roger replied, eyes meeting hers briefly in the rearview mirror with a hint of surprise. She rarely deviated from efficient routines. Claire turned back to her laptop, but a small smile played at her lips. For the first time in years, she was looking forward to standing in line for coffee. Something about the genuine interaction had awakened her curiosity, a feeling she hadn't experienced outside of business in a long time. What she didn't know yet was how this chance encounter would ripple through both their lives, changing everything in ways neither could imagine. The following morning, Claire's town car pulled up half a block from Westside Coffee at precisely 7:45 a.m. She'd checked yesterday's receipt and calculated that if the stranger, Tom, had a similar routine, he'd likely arrive around 8. I'll be about 20 minutes. Roger, she said, adjusting her simple blue sweater and baseball cap. Roger had been her driver for 7 years and knew better than to question these occasional normal people excursions. Take your time, Ms. Winters, he replied with a knowing smile. Her disguises weren't necessary with him. He'd been keeping her secrets for years. The coffee shop bustled with the same morning energy. Claire joined the line, her eyes occasionally flicking toward the door. At 8:03, Tom walked in, looking slightly more rushed than yesterday. His hair was damp as if he'd showered in a hurry, and he was juggling a child's lunchbox alongside his worn leather messenger bag. Claire felt an unexpected flutter of nerves. This was silly. She ran a company worth billions, made decisions affecting thousands of employees, and regularly negotiated deals with the most powerful people in tech. Yet here she was, oddly anxious about a chance second encounter with a stranger. The line moved forward. When Tom entered the queue 4 people behind her, she pretended not to notice. After ordering, she lingered at the pickup counter, scrolling through emails she wasn't actually reading. Medium black coffee for Tom, the barista called out just as Claire was running out of reasons to keep standing there. Thanks, Pete, Tom said, grabbing his coffee. He turned and nearly bumped into Claire. Oh, hey, it's you. From yesterday. Yes, Claire smiled, surprised he remembered. No angry customers today, thankfully. A definite improvement, Tom agreed. There was an awkward pause before he added, I'm Tom, by the way. Anne, Claire replied automatically, using the same alias as yesterday. Do you come here often? She winced internally at the cliché. Tom laughed. Every weekday. Fits on my route to drop the kids at school, and the coffee's better than the teacher's lounge stuff, which tastes like it's been brewing since last semester. You're a teacher? High school English going on 16 years now. He glanced at his watch. Speaking of which, I should... Of course, Claire stepped aside. Have a good day. Tom smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes and headed for the door, weaving through the morning crowd with practiced ease. Claire watched him go, then shook her head at her own behavior. What was she doing? Still, as she slid back into her car, she found herself saying, "Same time tomorrow, Roger." Over the next 3 weeks, the pattern repeated. Claire would arrive at 7:45, order her coffee, always changing her specific drink, a small rebellion against routine, and somehow end up exchanging a few words with Tom. Their conversations lengthened gradually from brief hellos to 5 minutes of actual dialogue. She learned he taught at Parkview High School. His daughter Lily was 11 and loved science and art in equal measure. Noah was 7 and collected facts about dinosaurs the way some kids collected trading cards. Tom coached the school's debate team on Thursdays, which was why he was always in a particular rush those mornings. What she didn't tell him, that she ran Horizon Technologies, that Forbes had recently featured her on its cover, that she'd spent yesterday afternoon in a private meeting with the Secretary of Commerce. Instead, when Tom eventually asked what she did, she simply said, "I work in tech, mostly boring stuff with computers." On a rainy Tuesday morning during their 4th week of coffee shop encounters, the place was unusually empty. Tom arrived looking more tired than usual. "Rough morning?" Claire asked when he joined her at the corner table she'd claimed. "Rough night," he corrected, taking a long sip of coffee. Noah had nightmares again. "It's been happening more lately." Claire hesitated, not wanting to pry yet curious. "That must be hard." Tom stared into his coffee for a moment. "It's been 2 years next month, since their mom died." He said it matter-of-factly, but Claire caught the subtle tension in his jaw. Cancer. It was quick. 6 months from diagnosis to, well, the kids still have tough nights sometimes. Last night was Noah's turn, I guess. "I'm sorry," Claire said, meaning it. In her world, people hid vulnerability like it was a weakness. Tom's straightforward acknowledgement of his pain struck her as both brave and refreshingly honest. "Thanks," he said. "We're doing okay. Better than okay most days. Lily's getting top marks in science, and Noah finally learned to tie his shoes last week, which was apparently a major victory worth celebrating with chocolate cake for dinner." He smiled at the memory. "Sounds like a perfectly reasonable celebration to me." "That's what I said. Though I did make them eat broccoli first." Tom checked the time. "I should get going. Field trip day for Lily's class, and I promised I'd take a photo of her before she gets on the bus." After he left, Claire sat with her cooling coffee for several minutes. 2 years as a single parent, teaching full-time while raising 2 grieving children. No wonder there were shadows under his eyes some mornings. Yet he always had time to chat with baristas, to help strangers, to smile genuinely when talking about his kids' achievements. "Ms. Winters?" Roger's voice came through her phone. "Your first meeting is in 40 minutes. "On my way," she replied, gathering her things. The entire drive to her office tower, she found herself thinking about chocolate cake dinners and how different her evenings were from Tom's. By the 6th week, they had established a routine. If they both arrived with enough time, they'd share a table for 10 minutes. Tom would tell stories about his students' creative interpretations of classic literature, and Claire would share carefully edited anecdotes from her work, describing challenging coding problems rather than billion-dollar acquisitions. "I brought something for you," Tom said one morning, reaching into his bag. "Lily made this and insisted I give it to you." He handed over a bookmark with pressed flowers laminated onto colorful paper. "For me?" "But she's never met me," Claire said, touched by the simple gift. "I might have mentioned my coffee shop friend who knows about computers," Tom admitted. "She's been struggling with a coding game at school and wanted me to ask you some questions." "Coffee shop friend," Claire repeated softly, running her fingers over the pressed flowers. "Too weird?" "Sorry, I didn't mean to make it awkward." "No, not at all," Claire said quickly. "It's nice. I don't have many friends outside of work." This was perhaps the most honest thing she'd told him. Tom looked at her curiously. "Hard to believe. You're easy to talk to, Anne." The false name stung unexpectedly. She'd been Anne to coffee shop employees for years without a second thought. Now hearing it from Tom felt wrong. "Tell Lily I love it," she said, carefully placing the bookmark in her planner, "and I'd be happy to help with her coding questions." As they parted ways that day, Claire realized something had shifted. She'd started these meetings out of curiosity, perhaps even boredom with the isolation of her position. Now these brief conversations had become the most genuine part of her day. In her office an hour later, surrounded by the trappings of power, the floor-to-ceiling windows, the original artwork, the teams of people awaiting her decisions, she found herself taking out the handmade bookmark again. A child who'd never met her had made this, based solely on her father's mention of their coffee conversations. Claire cleared her afternoon schedule and spent 3 hours researching elementary coding games, preparing notes that would help a bright 11-year-old girl who loved both science and art. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she felt like just a person helping another person, not a CEO, not a billionaire, not a power broker, just someone with knowledge to share. The simplicity of it felt like waking up after a very long sleep. Tom arrived at the coffee shop looking more distracted than Claire had ever seen him. He ordered his usual black coffee but forgot to thank the barista, something he never did. When he joined Claire at their regular corner table, he slumped into the chair with a heavy sigh. "Bad morning?" she asked, sliding his coffee closer to him. "Bad week?" Tom replied, running a hand through his hair. "School budget cuts. They announced them yesterday." Claire tilted her head, waiting for him to continue. Over the past 2 months of these coffee meetings, she'd learned that sometimes Tom just needed someone to listen. "They're cutting the after-school arts program," he continued. "The one Lily loves. She's been taking painting classes there since..." He paused. "Since Jenny died. It's been her thing, you know, her way of processing everything." Claire felt a tightness in her chest at the mention of Tom's late wife. He rarely spoke her name. "Can they find funding somewhere else?" Claire asked carefully. Tom shook his head. "The principals tried everything. Economy's tight, donations are down, and the school board decided arts are... what did they call it? Non-essential enrichment activities." His voice took on a bitter edge. "Try telling that to an 11-year-old who processes her grief through painting." "That's awful," Claire said, meaning it. She thought of the colorful bookmark that still marked her planner, made by a child she'd never met but somehow felt connected to. "I'm sorry," Tom said suddenly. "Dumping all this on you first thing in the morning." "Don't apologize," Claire replied. "That's what for..." She caught herself, then finished. "That's what coffee shop friends are for." Tom smiled weakly at the reference to their ongoing joke. "Lily asked about you yesterday. Wanted to know if you'd used her bookmark." "Every day," Claire said truthfully. "Tell her it's my favorite." They chatted for a few more minutes before Tom had to leave, his shoulders still heavy with worry. Claire watched him go, an idea already taking shape in her mind. In her office later that morning, Claire called in her chief of staff, David. "I need information on Parkview High School," she said without preamble. "Specifically their budget situation and the after-school arts program they're planning to cut." David, used to her sometimes unusual requests, didn't bat an eye. "Any particular reason, Ms. Winters?" "Personal interest," she replied. "And I'll need to make an anonymous donation. Enough to fund the program for, let's say, 5 years, with an endowment structure to keep it going afterward." David made a note. "We'll need to run it through the foundation for tax purposes." "Fine, but keep my name completely out of it. No press releases, no building naming, nothing that connects it to me or Horizon." She paused. "And I want it done today." David raised an eyebrow but nodded. "I'll get right on it." 3 days later, Claire arrived at the coffee shop early, eager to see if Tom had heard the news. When he walked in, his face told her everything. He was practically glowing. "You look happy today," she said as he sat down, trying to keep her voice casual. "Something amazing happened," Tom said, leaning forward. "The arts program got saved. Some anonymous donor gave enough money to fund it for the next 5 years, plus set up some kind of permanent fund to keep it going indefinitely." Claire feigned surprise. "That's wonderful. Lily must be thrilled. She's over the moon. The whole school is buzzing about it. Nobody knows where the money came from. Just appeared out of nowhere." He shook his head in wonder. "The principal said it was the largest single donation the school has ever received." Claire nodded, fighting a smile. "Sometimes good things happen when you least expect them." "I guess they do," Tom agreed. He looked at her more carefully. "You don't seem as surprised as I expected." Claire felt a flash of panic. "I'm just happy for Lily," she said quickly. And for you. Tom seemed to accept this, and their conversation moved on to other topics. Claire relaxed, enjoying the lightness that had returned to his manner. This was why wealth mattered, she thought. Not for the houses or cars or status, but for moments like this, the ability to solve real problems for people who deserved a break. A week later, Tom was running late for their coffee meeting. Claire checked her watch repeatedly, wondering if she should leave before her 9:30 conference call. Just as she was gathering her things, Tom rushed in, looking flustered. "Sorry," he said, dropping into the chair across from her. "Dentist appointment ran long." He paused, looking at her strangely. "I saw something interesting in the waiting room." "Oh?" Claire said, taking a sip of her latte. Tom reached into his bag and pulled out a glossy business magazine. Claire's stomach dropped as he placed it on the table, open to a page with her face staring back at them. It was from her recent Forbes profile, Claire Winters, how Horizon's visionary CEO quietly built a tech empire. "Anything you want to tell me, Anne?" Tom asked quietly. Claire stared at the magazine, then at Tom's face. His expression wasn't angry, just confused and a little hurt. "I can explain," she began, then stopped. What could she say? That she'd been lying about her identity for months? That she'd enjoyed being treated like a normal person for once? "The arts program donation," Tom said. "That was you, wasn't it?" Claire nodded slowly. "I wanted to help. Why didn't you just tell me who you were?" She looked down at her coffee. "At first, it didn't matter. I was just a stranger you helped in a coffee shop. Then when we started talking regularly, I worried it would change things." "Change things how?" "People act differently when they know I'm Claire Winters of Horizon Technologies," she said. "They want something, or they're intimidated, or they're trying to impress me. Nobody just talks to me, not like you did." Tom was quiet for a long moment, looking at the magazine photo, then back at her. "You could have trusted me." "I barely trust anyone," Claire admitted. "It's the downside of having $11 billion. You never know who's being genuine." Tom's eyes widened. $11 billion? With a B? Despite everything, Claire laughed. "That's what you focus on?" "It's a lot of zeros," Tom said, a faint smile crossing his face before fading again. "So every morning I've been chatting with one of the richest women in the world, thinking she was just, what did you call it? Someone who works in tech, mostly boring stuff with computers?" "That part wasn't a lie," Claire insisted. "I do work in tech. It's just that I run the company instead of just coding for it." She reached across the table. "Tom, nothing else I told you was a lie. Not about enjoying our talks, not about how I use Lily's bookmark every day." Tom didn't take her offered hand. Instead, he closed the magazine. "I need to process this." He stood up. "I appreciate what you did for the school. Really. But I don't like being deceived, even by omission." "I understand," Claire said quietly. "I'm sorry," Tom nodded stiffly and left. Claire remained at the table, the magazine still open to her profile. The woman in the photo looked confident, powerful, untouchable. Nothing like how she felt right now. For the next 3 days, Claire still went to the coffee shop at the usual time. Tom didn't show. On the 4th day, just as she was about to give up, he walked in. "Hi," he said, sitting down across from her. "Hi," she replied cautiously. "So," Tom said after ordering his coffee, "I've been thinking." About how my late wife would laugh herself silly knowing I've been having coffee for months with Claire Winters and didn't recognize her." A small smile played at his lips. "Jenny followed business news. Had a subscription to Forbes. She would have known you immediately." Claire felt a wave of relief at his lighter tone. "I'm pretty good at being invisible when I want to be." "The question is," Tom continued more seriously, "why would someone like you want to be invisible? Why spend your mornings in a regular coffee shop talking to a high school teacher?" Claire considered her answer carefully. "Because those mornings have been the most real part of my life lately. Because you saw me as just a person, not a bank account or a business opportunity." She paused. "Because your stories about Lily and Noah and your students make me laugh, and no one in my world ever just makes me laugh anymore." Tom studied her face, then nodded slowly. Okay. I'm still processing the whole billionaire thing," he admitted. "And I'm not entirely comfortable with you anonymously solving problems with your checkbook. It makes things uneven between us, I understand." "But," he continued. "I've missed our talks these past few days. So maybe we can start over? With the truth this time?" He held out his hand. "I'm Tom Daniels, high school English teacher, single dad, coffee addict." Claire smiled and took his hand. "Claire Winters, CEO, terrible cook, also a coffee addict." "Nice to meet you, Tom." As they shook hands, Claire felt something shift between them. A barrier removed, but also a new complexity added. The path forward wasn't clear, but at least now they were walking it honestly. 3 weeks after Claire's identity revelation, their coffee meetings had evolved into actual dates. They'd shared dinners at quiet restaurants where Claire knew the owners would be discreet, taken walks in less traveled parks, and once even attended a movie, with Claire wearing her trusty baseball cap and glasses disguise. Today, Tom had invited Claire to watch Lily's science fair presentation after school. It would be her first time meeting his children, and Claire found herself oddly nervous as she instructed Roger to drive her to Parkview High School. "You don't need to wait," she told him. "I'll call when I'm ready to be picked up." Roger nodded, though he looked concerned. "Ms. Winters, there's a photographer who's been following us for the last 10 minutes. Third car back." Claire's stomach dropped. She glanced in the side mirror and saw the black sedan. "Are you sure?" "I've been driving you for 8 years. I know when we're being tailed," Roger said. "Should I lose them?" Claire hesitated. "No, drop me off as planned. If they're following me, I don't want to lead them on a chase through the city." She sighed. It was bound to happen eventually. When Claire entered the school gymnasium, she spotted Tom immediately. He stood near a display board covered in colorful charts talking with Lily, who gestured animatedly as she explained something. Claire hung back, watching them with a smile. Tom was such a natural father, giving his daughter his complete attention despite the chaos of the crowded science fair. Noah sat on a folding chair nearby, head bent over a dinosaur book. He looked so much like Tom. Same dark hair, same serious expression when concentrating. Claire approached slowly, not wanting to interrupt. Tom saw her and waved her over with a warm smile. "Claire, this is Lily," he said. "Lily, this is my friend Claire I told you about." Lily looked up with curious eyes. "The one who helped me with my coding game?" "That's me," Claire said, suddenly feeling shy. "Your dad says you're presenting a project on renewable energy?" Lily's face lit up. "I built a miniature wind turbine. Want to see how it works?" For the next 15 minutes, Claire listened as Lily enthusiastically explained her project. The girl was remarkably bright, connecting concepts in ways that impressed even Claire, who worked with some of the best engineers in the world. Eventually, Tom touched Claire's arm and nodded toward Noah, who was still sitting with his book, occasionally glancing their way. "Noah," Tom called gently, "come meet my friend Claire." The boy approached cautiously, clutching his dinosaur book like a shield. "Hi, Noah," Claire said, crouching to his level. "Your dad tells me you're the dinosaur expert in the family." Noah nodded but didn't speak. "What's your favorite?" Claire asked. "Triceratops," Noah mumbled. "They have 3 horns to protect themselves." "Smart choice," Claire replied. "Protection is important." Noah studied her face. "Are you Dad's girlfriend?" The directness of the question caught Claire off guard. She glanced at Tom, who looked equally surprised. "We're friends," Tom answered carefully. "Claire and I like spending time together." "Mom had friends too," Noah said, "but none of them tried to be her." The simple statement hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Tom knelt beside his son. "No one could ever be Mom, buddy, not ever. Claire isn't trying to replace her." Noah didn't look convinced. He turned back to Claire. "Do you like dinosaurs?" "I do," Claire replied. "But I bet you know a lot more about them than I do." "I could teach you," Noah offered, his expression softening slightly. "If you want." It was a small opening, but Claire recognized its significance. "I'd like that very much." The moment was interrupted by a flash. All 4 of them turned to see a man with a camera near the gymnasium entrance. He snapped several more photos before a teacher approached him, looking concerned. "We need to go," Claire said quietly to Tom. "That's a photographer, probably from a tabloid or gossip site." Tom's expression darkened. "Already?" "We've been so careful." "Someone must have tipped them off," Claire said, her mind racing. This was exactly what she'd feared, her world colliding with Tom's in the worst way. The teacher was now escorting the photographer out, but the damage was done. Several parents had noticed the commotion and were looking their way. whispers starting as people recognized Claire. "Dad?" Lily asked, her excitement about her project dimming as she sensed the tension. "What's happening?" "Nothing to worry about, sweetheart," Tom assured her, though his tight smile said otherwise. "Why don't you stay with your project? The judges haven't come by yet." Tom and Claire moved to a quieter corner, Noah trailing behind them, suddenly unwilling to leave his father's side. "I'm so sorry," Claire whispered. "This is what happens in my world. Everything becomes public." "We knew this might happen," Tom said, though he looked shaken. "We just didn't expect it so soon." Claire's phone buzzed. It was David, her chief of staff. "Ms. Winters, there's an emergency board meeting in 30 minutes. The chairman is insisting on your presence." "I'm at a school event," Claire replied. "Can it wait?" "It's about the photos that just hit social media," David said. "You with a teacher and his kids at a school function. The board is concerned." Claire closed her eyes briefly. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. She turned back to Tom. "I have to go." "Board meeting? About us?" Tom asked, his voice low so Noah wouldn't hear. Claire nodded. "Apparently we're already trending online." She touched his arm gently. "I'll call you tonight." The emergency board meeting was exactly as unpleasant as Claire had expected. 12 stern faces stared at her from around the massive conference table as Chairman Wilson pulled up the photos on the wall screen. "Care to explain these, Claire?" he asked, his tone clipped. "I'm having dinner with friends after this, George. Would you like me to explain those plans too?" Claire replied, keeping her voice level. "Don't be flippant. This isn't about your personal life. It's about Horizon's public image." He gestured to the photos. "Our stock dipped 3% this afternoon after these hit the internet." "A momentary fluctuation," Claire countered. Patricia Chen, the oldest board member, leaned forward. "Claire, you've built this company from nothing into a technological powerhouse. You're not just a CEO, you're the face of Horizon. Who you associate with matters." "Associate with?" Claire repeated. "You make it sound like he's a criminal. He's a high school English teacher." "Exactly our point," said Wilson. "We're not saying there's anything wrong with teaching. But the optics of the billionaire CEO of Horizon Technologies dating a public school teacher—" "The optics?" Claire interrupted. "We're concerned about how it looks for me to date someone who educates children, someone who makes a positive impact every day." "The press is already running with it," said another board member, passing around printouts of news articles. The headlines made Claire's stomach turn. "Tech titan slumming it with teacher." Claire Winters. "Charity case, the single dad who caught a billionaire's eye." Horizon CEO's strange new romance raises questions about judgment. "This will blow over," Claire insisted, though she felt sick at the cruel framing. "Not if you continue this relationship," Wilson said. "The press will dig into his life, his children, his finances, his late wife. Nothing will be private anymore." Claire thought of Noah clutching his dinosaur book, of Lily's proud smile as she explained her science project. They were innocent kids who'd already lost so much. What would this kind of attention do to them? "What exactly are you suggesting?" she asked, though she already knew. "Take a break from this situation," Wilson said. "At least until we launch the new platform next quarter. Focus on the company. Date someone more. Appropriate if you must be seen with someone." Claire stood up, gathering her papers. "This meeting is over." "Claire," Wilson began, "be reasonable." "I said it's over," she repeated. "You've made your concerns clear. Now I have dinner plans with the very person you're also worried about." As she walked out, Claire's phone buzzed with a text from Tom. "We need to talk. Photos of the kids are everywhere online. Noah's upset. Can we meet tonight?" Claire's heart sank. She'd known this would happen eventually, but she'd hoped for more time. Time for Noah to warm up to her. Time for Tom to get used to the public scrutiny that came with her life. Time for her to figure out if she could balance the person she was with Tom and the person she had to be at Horizon. She texted back, "Coming over now." Tom's house was modest but warm, filled with family photos and children's artwork. Tonight, however, the atmosphere was tense. Noah was in his room, refusing to come out, and Lily sat quietly at the kitchen table, her earlier excitement completely gone. Someone showed her the headlines at school, Tom explained quietly, after Lily had gone to check on her brother. Kids with phones. She didn't understand why people were saying those things about us. Claire felt a wave of guilt. Tom, I'm so sorry. You didn't do this, he said. But it's made me realize something. He ran a hand through his hair, looking more tired than she'd ever seen him. My kids need stability. They need normal. I thought I could handle dating someone in your position, but seeing what it's already doing to them, I understand, Claire said, feeling a familiar emptiness opening inside her. Do you? Tom asked. I care about you, Claire, more than I expected to, but I have to think about Lily and Noah first. And I care about you, Claire said. Enough to not want to hurt your family. She took a deep breath. Maybe we should take a step back. Give things time to settle down. The pain in Tom's eyes matched her own. Maybe we should. 6 weeks passed. Tom returned to his routine. Teaching classes, coaching debate team, helping with homework, making dinosaur-shaped pancakes on Sunday mornings. The media frenzy had died down after the first 2 weeks when Claire Winters, dating a teacher, was replaced by newer celebrity gossip. Still, things at school had changed. Other teachers looked at him differently. Parents whispered when he walked by at pickup time. The kids were adjusting. Lily asked about Claire occasionally. Noah didn't mention her at all, but Tom had found him looking through news articles about Claire on Lily's tablet one night. Tom hadn't returned to Westside Coffee. He bought a cheap coffee maker for his classroom instead. Dad, Lily said one evening as they washed dishes together, do you miss Claire? Tom nearly dropped the plate he was drying. Why do you ask? Because you look at your phone a lot like you're waiting for something. And you stopped telling jokes at dinner. Out of the mouths of babes, Tom thought.
Yes, he admitted.
I miss her. Then why don't you call her? It's complicated, sweetie. Because she's rich and famous? Lily pressed. That's what the kids at school said. Tom set down the dish towel and faced his daughter. Partly that, but also because relationships need to work for everyone involved, including you and Noah. The attention was hard on all of us. Noah's the one who's really upset, Lily said matter-of-factly. He thinks if you like Claire, it means you don't love Mom anymore. Tom felt his chest tighten. That's not true. I know that, Lily said. But Noah's still figuring it out. He's only 7, Dad. She handed him another wet plate. But I liked Claire. She listened to my whole science project. Most grown-ups just pretend. She's a good listener, Tom agreed softly, and she made you smile more. Lily added this like it was the most important point. Later that night, after the kids were asleep, Tom sat with his phone in hand, scrolling to Claire's number. His thumb hovered over it, but he couldn't bring himself to call. What would he even say? Their worlds were still just as different as they had been 6 weeks ago. Across town, Claire sat in her penthouse office, surrounded by screens displaying financial projections, product designs, and market analyses. The new platform launch was 3 weeks away, and the board expected her full attention. Instead, she found herself thinking about Tom's kitchen, warm with the smell of the spaghetti he'd made the night she met his children. Ms. Winters? Her assistant poked her head in. The executive team is waiting for the strategy meeting. Claire nodded, gathering her tablet. As she walked to the conference room, she passed the framed magazine covers that lined the hallway, her face staring back at her from Forbes. Fortune, Time, success by every traditional measure. So why did it suddenly feel so empty? In the meeting, Claire found it hard to focus as her executives debated marketing strategies. Her mind kept wandering to her conversation with Tom's children. Noah's protective defiance. Lily's bright curiosity. Claire? David prompted. Your thoughts on the rollout schedule? Claire looked around the table at her team, all waiting for her direction. An idea that had been forming for weeks suddenly crystallized. I'd like to propose a change, she said, not just to the rollout but to our entire structure. For the next hour, Claire outlined a vision that left her executives stunned. A complete reorganization of Horizon's leadership, a new headquarters location, a community-focused initiative that would bring tech education to neighborhoods outside the wealthy downtown districts. You want to step back as CEO? David asked incredulously when she finished. Not step back. Step sideways, Claire corrected. Executive chairwoman. Focusing on vision and strategy. We'll promote Alicia to CEO for daily operations. The board will never approve this, another executive warned. Claire smiled. I still own 60% of the company. They don't have to approve. After the meeting, David followed Claire to her office. This isn't just about business, is it? He asked quietly. Claire looked at her oldest friend and colleague. No, she admitted. It's about the life I want versus the life I've built. David nodded. For what it's worth, I think you're making the right choice. I haven't seen you this certain about anything in years. 3 weeks later, Tom was grading papers in his classroom after school when the department head stuck her head in. Tom, there's someone here to see you. He looked up to see Claire standing in the doorway. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, more like the Anne he'd first met than the CEO who'd appeared in those magazine photos. Hi, she said softly. Hi, he echoed, his heart racing despite himself. This is a surprise. I should have called first, Claire said. I can come back another time if… No, it's fine, Tom said quickly. I was just finishing up. He gestured to the visitor chair. How have you been? Busy, Claire replied, sitting down. Making some changes, she took a deep breath. I stepped down as CEO of Horizon. Tom's eyes widened. You what? I'm still chairwoman, she explained. I set strategy vision, but I'm not running daily operations anymore. Why would you do that? Because I realized something during our time apart, Claire said. I built a company I'm proud of, but not a life I want to live. She met his eyes directly. I don't want to be alone in a penthouse, Tom. I want mornings at coffee shops and science fair projects and people who see me, not my bank account. Tom shook his head. Claire, I never asked you to give up your company. You didn't, she agreed. This was my choice for me. But she hesitated. I hoped it might also remove one obstacle between us. It wasn't just the company, Tom said gently. It was the attention. The kids, I know, Claire nodded. That's why I'm moving. I've leased an apartment about 10 blocks from here. Nothing fancy. And I'm opening a tech education center in the neighborhood. Free coding classes for kids, job training for adults. No Winter's name, no Horizon branding. Tom stared at her. You're completely changing your life. I'm aligning my life with my priorities, Claire corrected. And I realized you and your kids showed me what those priorities are. She reached for his hand across the desk. I'm not asking for anything, Tom. You have every right to say you've moved on. I just wanted you to know that I'm here. In the neighborhood. As a friend, if nothing else. Tom looked at their joined hands. The kids ask about you, he said quietly. Lily especially. I miss them, Claire admitted. I miss you. Noah's still processing everything, Tom warned. It might take time. I have time, Claire said. And I happen to know a dinosaur expert who could teach me a thing or two if he's willing. Tom smiled for what felt like the first time in weeks. Maybe we could start with coffee again? Tomorrow morning. I'd like that, Claire said. I hear Westside Coffee makes a great black coffee. 2 months later, Claire sat on a bench at the neighborhood park, watching as Tom helped Noah fly a kite. Lily sat beside her, sketching the scene in a new art book. He's getting really good at that, Claire commented, nodding toward Noah, who was cackling with delight as the kite dipped and soared. Dad says he has a natural talent for physics, Lily said proudly. I'm more of an arts and computer person like you. Claire smiled at being grouped with Lily that way. The girl had been coming to coding classes at the new tech center 3 afternoons a week and was already helping the younger kids. Look, Lily held up her sketch. I got Dad's smile right this time. Claire studied the drawing. Tom's smile in the sketch matched the one on his actual face as he ran alongside his son. It was open, genuine, unguarded. The same smile she'd first noticed months ago when he diffused a tense moment in a coffee shop. Perfect, Claire said. Tom and Noah jogged over. The kite safely landed. Who's hungry? Tom asked, putting his arm around Claire's shoulders naturally without hesitation. Me, Noah said. Can we get pizza with the cheese inside the crust? Stuffed crust it is, Tom agreed. As they gathered their things, Claire caught Tom watching her. What? She asked. Just thinking about how things change, he said quietly. 6 months ago I was just a guy buying coffee and you were just a woman in line. I was never just a woman in line, Claire reminded him with a smile. And you were never just a guy? Noah tugged at Claire's hand. I found a new dinosaur book at the library. It has pop-up pages. Want to see it after pizza? Absolutely, Claire said, her heart warming at the simple invitation. It had taken weeks of patient conversations and dinosaur facts, but Noah was finally opening up to her. As they walked to the pizza place, Lily chattering about her latest coding project, Noah identifying cloud shapes and Tom's hand firmly in hers. Claire thought about the path that had brought her here. She still had her company. She still had her resources and ability to make a difference in the world. But now she also had this, a family forming slowly around her, accepting her not for what she owned, but simply for who she was. Sometimes protection came in the form of a stranger stepping between you and an angry customer. And sometimes it came in the form of love patient enough to wait while you found your way home.